So there's this massive $1.5 trillion problem hanging over the US economy. And honestly, it's giving a lot of people some serious 2008 flashbacks. The big question is, are we about to run into the same wall all over again, or is this something totally different? And look, this isn't some far-off issue we can worry about later. No, the clock is absolutely ticking on a huge test for the commercial real estate market and, maybe more importantly, for the banks that fund it. It's all going to go down between now and the end of 2026. Just let that number sink in for a second. $1.5 trillion. That is the staggering amount of commercial real estate debt that's about to come due. And that's the kind of number that sends a real shiver down the spine of the entire financial system. You'll hear experts call this the maturity wall. Basically, it's this huge mountain of commercial property loans that were signed when money was super cheap, right? And now, suddenly, they all have to be paid back or refinanced in a world that is, well, a lot more expensive. This whole situation is so serious that it's got the nation's top bank cop, the FDIC, sounding a major alarm. And the warnings they're giving, man, they have some really eerie echoes of a crisis we all hoped we'd left in the rearview mirror. All right, so first up, let's dig into this official warning from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC. Okay, so you've probably heard of the FDIC, right? They're the ones who insure your bank deposits. But that's not their whole gig. Their main job, ever since the Great Depression, has been to keep the entire U.S. financial system from falling apart. So yeah, when they put out a warning, you can bet everyone on Wall Street sits up and pays attention. So let's circle back to that term, the maturity wall. The key phrase to lock onto here is under new market conditions. Think about it. We're not playing the same game we were in the 2010s with those rock-bottom interest rates. The rulebook for refinancing has been completely rewritten. And when you look at what kind of loans are about to hit this wall, you start to see exactly why the FDIC is so worried. A huge chunk of them are for office properties. I mean, we're talking about a sector getting hammered by a perfect storm right now. You've got remote work leading to empty buildings, property values tanking, and now this massive wave of debt coming due at much higher rates. So you might be thinking, okay, it's just office buildings, right? How bad can it be? Well, to answer that, we have to talk about the ghost of 2008. You remember how it went down, right? It all kicked off with a massive housing bubble fueled by these super risky subprime mortgages. And when home prices started to crash, what looked like just a housing problem, it went nuclear. It spiraled into a full-blown global financial meltdown, and it happened so fast. I think this quote from Alan Greenspan, the former head of the Fed, just perfectly captures the shock of the moment. He's basically admitting that the very people in charge were completely blindsided. They put their faith in the banks to police themselves, and wow, were they wrong. So how did a bunch of bad home loans in the US take down the whole world? The culprit was something called a mortgage-backed security. Imagine taking thousands of mortgages, good ones, bad ones, all of them, and mixing them together into a kind of financial smoothie. Then you sell that smoothie to investors all over the globe. Well, when those American mortgages started going bad, the poison spread everywhere. Okay, so let's bring it back to today. What's putting the squeeze on commercial real estate right now? It really comes down to a 1-2 punch. First, you have the remote work revolution. It's just a fact. Offices are way emptier than they used to be, with vacancy rates hitting almost 19%. And second, to fight inflation, interest rates have been jacked up, making it crazy expensive for building owners to refinance all those loans they took out when money was cheap. And the hit to the office sector? It's been absolutely brutal. I mean, think about it. If you have a building that was worth $100 million, and now it's only appraised at $61 million, how in the world do you refinance a loan that was based on that original higher value? You're suddenly way underwater. But here's a really important distinction we have to make. This isn't happening to all commercial real estate. While the office market is getting crushed, other areas, like industrial properties, all those giant warehouses for Amazon and online shopping, they're actually booming. Their values are up. So this is a very targeted problem. Okay, so if this problem isn't being spread around the globe through some complicated financial product like in 2008, where exactly is the risk? Like, who's left holding the bag this time? And this right here is probably the single biggest, most important difference between now and 2008. See, the risk isn't sitting with the huge, too-big-to-fail global banks this time. No, the exposure is concentrated in our smaller, regional, and community banks. The lenders that are the absolute lifeblood for small businesses and local economies all across the country. So, how do the watchdogs keep an eye on this? Well, the FDIC has these tripwires. To put it simply, every bank has something called capital. It's basically their safety cushion. If a bank's construction loans get bigger than that cushion, or if their total commercial real estate loans are more than 3 times that cushion, bam, red flags go up and the regulators start looking very closely. And a lot of these smaller banks are bumping right up against those limits right now. Which brings us to the big question, the one we started with. Is this just déjà vu all over again, or are we facing a totally new kind of threat? Okay, let's put it all side by side. In 2008, you had bad home loans spread globally by these complex securities, with the risk concentrated in the biggest banks. Today, you have bad office loans held domestically as direct loans, with the risk concentrated in smaller banks. And, this is key, it's all happening inside a much, much tougher regulatory system. So what's the bottom line here? Look, this is not 2008, the sequel. The risk seems much more contained, more localized. But the core threat? That's the same. It's the classic story of a real estate downturn having the potential to seriously stress out the banking system, especially those smaller banks that are so critical to so many communities. And that really leaves us with the one final crucial question. We can see the wall coming, we know who's standing right in front of it. So the $1.5 trillion question is this. Are all those safeguards we built after 2008 strong enough? Is the system resilient enough to take this hit without breaking? We're all about to find out.